All right, so let's talk about Giannis. So it's a lot of talk. Giannis is going on the chopping block. I mean, they open to trading him, and we've talked about this countless times about the Detroit Pistons and Giannis Antetokounmpo. The funny thing about it is this: it'll have to be a lot of roster reconstruction to bring Giannis to the Detroit Pistons. Because let's just say you're able to get Giannis, you ain't gonna be able to have Giannis, Ausar Thompson, and Jalen Duren. And obviously what Duren wants in contract-wise, I'm not sure he gonna get it or won't. He could have been injured. But in general, that Giannis contract, and let's just talk about him as a player. You really gonna, at that point, you want to keep Ausar Thompson, you gonna want to stretch five at that point. You're gonna want as much shooting on the floor as possible. So Thompson and Giannis not being able to shoot, then your five gotta shoot. Cade is already a decent shooter, got to keep getting better. And then you're going to want another guy that can shoot on the floor. In general, even if Beasley come back, you got Beasley, Jenkins, Stu is a kind of a stretch five. He come off the bench. I don't think he can play that many minutes for real. Probably in a trade, I don't know if Tobias want to go to Milwaukee, so I don't think you can bank on him. But in a trade, every pick you got available probably, Ron Hollins, Jalen Duren in the sign and trade. And that's just the beginning. Dennis Jenkins might have to go over there. Karis LeVert might have to go over there. In general, you really need shooting. And you probably need another shot creator still. Another guy like a Beasley. So it's a lot of things that you got to do with Giannis to reconstruct your roster. Now, the dynamic between him and Cade and handling the rock, I don't even think that's a problem. Honestly, I don't think Cade might mind turning Giannis up. I think they play well together. But it's really, what do you do outside of them? How many more good years Giannis got with that leg? What do you do outside of them? That's the wild thing. What do you do outside of them? You hope Beasley can come back. You hold on to Duncan Robinson. You hope you can hold on to Jenkins. You might hold on to Isaiah Stewart. You hold on to Ausar Thompson. If you bring back Tobias Harris, you can play Tobias, Giannis. Let's say they go out there and find a stretch five, Vujovic on the low. You got Stewart, you keep B-ball Paul. You bring back Beasley. So maybe you go, Ausar, Cade, Tobias. I'm just throwing Vujovic in there as a cheaper option. Giannis. Off the bench, you hope to keep Jenkins, Duncan Robinson, Stu, B-Ball Paul, Wool, Javonte Green. You bring, maybe that's just good enough. Not saying it's bad, but really it's who do you get to be that stretch five in the middle? And like I said, Vujovic, he had his problems guarding, Joel Embiid, they shut down. But I'm saying you can get him for the low. But in that draft, you're really looking for a big fella that you can develop behind him. But it's a lot of things you got to shift. And if you get close this year, which, you're getting closer, I don't know. This is right before Game 4 in the Cavs. I don't know what's going to happen. I know the NBA want to stretch these series out, so they probably want the Cavs to win, so they have something to go 7. But that's the great question. If you get close, is it reconstruction like Giannis? Because then it's a lot of pressure. I remember Clyde the Glide Drexler. They lost 2 finals in Portland. One to Detroit, and they lost. And rest in peace to ex-Piston Uncle Clifford Robertson. They lost 1 to Detroit. They lost 1 to. Was it the Lakers? Yeah, they lost 1 to the Bulls. Excuse me, the Bulls. Okay. He got traded to Houston after they won their first one. When Mike first went out. After they won their first one, he got traded, out of there. And he said it was a lot of pressure on him. It was a lot of pressure on him. It was kind of cold. He said it was a lot of pressure on him. And if they lost it, they didn't go back-to-back in Houston. The second year, I think that's when Mike came back and lost to Orlando. If they didn't win it, people was going to blame him. So if the Pistons get close and then, they slip, they fall, they don't get up, what? In my DMX voice, are people going to blame Giannis? So you got to understand, once you bring Giannis to your rosters, even Orlando, I think is the favorite to land him in most people's brains based off he want to stay on the East Coast. You don't want a ball dominant point guard or something like that, or a ball scoring dominant point guard. Even when you look at it from that perspective, Orlando gonna have to blow it up. You was close. And I get it, Giannis is an all-NBA performer, MVP. But if we talking about, adding him to this roster, you may have to give up Asar Thompson. You definitely got to give up him or Duren from a basketball standpoint of view. Realistically, you gonna keep K. You want to keep Asar. You want to keep Duncan Robinson. You probably want to keep Dennis Jenkins. The contract is so good. You want to keep Stu. You hope Beasley able to get cleared. And really at that point, Holland's probably gone. Duren probably gone. A bunch of picks. So at that point, once you're looking at it, you put Giannis. You get Vujovic on the cheap or another stretch 5 on the cheap if you can do it. At the 3, you hope, if you can get somebody else, if you can bring Beasley back and he can play that position, and you keep Thompson and him, however that go. Thompson played the 3, he played the 2, whatever, who gives a hell? Same shit. And you coming with Cade, Beasley, Thompson, Giannis, and maybe Vujovic or somebody like that at the 5. I mean, shit. I mean, you like it, because then off the pine, you can come with Jenkins, Duncan, Stu, Woo. You can come. I get it. Very interesting. It can work. But then you look at the alternative options. Trey Murphy younger, Lauri Markkanen younger. They got to move. Trey Murphy might be just from a standpoint. Defensively, you don't lose nothing. You gain something at that position. He could shoot it, so he could score it. Long arms, give you some time at the 3, at the 4. You like it. You like, man, that's nice. Lauri Markkanen, explosive, Duncan. You hope that that defense can rub off on him like it did on Duncan Robinson. And probably with that Trey Murphy contract, you can probably still squeeze a Kyrie in there. You can squeeze a Malik Monk or a Zach LaVine in there. So yeah, it's interesting, but it's a lot of roster reconstruction that comes for teams that's that close. And you know what, man? This might sound crazy. I'm gonna talk about this. Is one team ain't nobody talked about because he said he wants to stay on the East Coast. I don't know if he want to do a rebuild or not, but man, really, San Antonio can get rid of a couple of them jokers over there. They can get rid of De'Aaron Fox and they can have Giannis, Victor Wembanyama, Castle, and Dylan Harper. Oh my God. Oh my God. But hey, I'm just throwing that out there. I was just thinking about that. But hey, and we was talking about, yes, San Antonio don't do it this year, man. San Antonio about to take over, bro. Hell yeah, San Antonio about to take over. But we'll see what happens. Hit the link in the description. Say find me over at X, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Peace.